Hello, Professor Morgan here, talking about different types of publishing options when it comes to getting your work out there. So you've written a book and stuff, and what next? Okay, so let's look at some different things here and some pros and cons, shall we? So you've written a book. Now what do you do? Because there's a lot of different things that are available that weren't necessarily available many years ago. All right, let's take a look. So first, you need to consider the following points. What are your goals for the book? I mean, are you trying to make $1 billion? Or are you trying to just say, look, I did a thing? Is it something that I mean, are you willing to share? And are you willing to, get feedback on it and have people tear it apart when it comes to, reviews? That's something to think about. Okay. How much control do you want? Okay. So when you've written a book, how much control do you want as far as the cover? How it's marketed, the description for it, and stuff like that. And how willing are you to promote it? It's like some people are like, well, I just want to write books and then send them off to the publisher and they send me checks and that's how it works. I don't want to do any promotion. Little hint here, that's not really how it works when it comes to writing books. Okay. So, and also how thick is your skin? Because trying to get published is yeah, as we're talking about, it's there's a lot of rejection involved, I guess I should say. So just keep that in mind. All right. And how long are you willing to wait? Let's say you've written your book and it's like, do you want to get it out there as soon as possible? Are you waiting to wait for a couple of years before it's available? So some things to consider, and we'll talk about how the different ways to approach publishing can address each of these. So for the sake of this, we're going to keep it very simple. There's three main types of publishing, although there are different types, subtypes of these. Okay, and there's traditional publishing. There's independent publishing, also known as well self-publishing, and also something called joint venture. We're going to look at each one of these and kind of like the pros and cons of each one. Okay, so for traditional, yeah, okay. Getting traditionally published is like walking down a busy street in New York City and asking everyone you meet if they will marry you. Um, the You're going to get a lot of no's, but all you need is one person is to say yes. Okay, so it is not uncommon to get a lot of rejections, and this is also traditional publishing can be done through agents. We're not going to go too far into that here in this video, but yeah, because think about it. Agents and publishers, they are looking for works that they think are going to sell. They're in it to make money. And you may have written a wonderful book that's just not their cup of tea, or they don't think it's going to be a thing. I mean, let's say I've written like the most classic rock anthem ever, and I go to Nashville and I pitch it to a country western, uh, you know, publisher. They're probably not going to say, good for you writing the song or whatever, but that's not really what we're looking for. So anyway, so approaches, okay? You can get an agent or you can contact publishers directly, depending on how big the publisher is, as I just noted. Okay, so let's just review that. Get an agent again. Here's a hint: never pay an agent up front. They only make money when you make money. Okay. But agents then have, you can get an agent to represent you, and they have contacts with the publishers, but they will get a cut, a cut of what you're going to be doing, which we'll talk about. So the pros of traditional publishing are your book will get into bookstores, even though, I mean, in this day and age, some bookstores are, chains are kind of, it's not as big of a deal, whatever, but you'll get a larger distribution. You don't have to spend any money up front. I mean, they just take care of everything, right? You will get royalty checks from the publisher. Now it does take, usually it's about once a quarter. Some places it's like twice a year, and it may take a little while. So if your book comes out in, let's say, March, you may not get your first royalty check until like the end of the year. That's just the way that it goes. Okay. And another pro is that greater exposure leads to higher number of copies sold. The fact that you can actually have books in bookstores and they can, the publisher, is well known and stuff. That's a lot of good things here. Okay, so I mean, it's It's kind of cool. And I'll tell you, having been traditionally published, it's pretty cool to walk into a bookstore and see your book for sale. So anyway, so no, there are some cons to traditional publishing. The percentage of the sales you get is not very big. Okay, so if a book retails for, let's say, 15, actually let's make it 17.99, you'll probably make less than $1 per book that is sold. Okay, because the publisher gets their cut, the retailer gets their cut, their agent gets their cut, and then you get what's left over. And yeah, so there's not a lot there. If you have an agent, they get a cut of your royalties, as I just discussed. Generally, you would sign away most of your rights. So, I mean, depending on the way the contract is phrased, you may be signing away your intellectual property. So that's something that you'll want to check in the contract. Because let's say you want to republish the book, independently. Well, you can't because you've given them the rights to print that book. So something you should be aware of. And you can, generally you have little to no say over the covers. And that was actually one of the more disappointing things, I think, for me when I was traditionally published, is that I wasn't real thrilled with the covers they came up with, because it was not what I imagined. Were they good covers? It's just, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but there's that. Okay. And you may have to wait up to 2 years for your books to come out. Especially if people who are writing like, oh, I'm going to write a series and like I'm going to have them end on cliffhangers. Bad idea. It's like, oh, really? Are you willing to wait to have your books come out every 2 years? Because traditional publishing, they've got a lot. They're dealing with a lot. Okay. Now, when it comes to independent publishing, this is, I'm independent. Yes, I am. Okay. This is also known as self-publishing, and this has become a lot more accepted. It used to have quite a stigma against it years ago, but the approach is that you can create your own imprint. Basically, you create your own, and a very popular one is through Amazon's CreateSpace, but you can create your own imprint and call it whatever. Okay. It uses the standard independent options. Okay. Which basically means you have a lot of control, which we'll talk about in a second. So the pros of independent publishing are, for each book that you sell, you get a buttload more money compared to what you did for your other books. Again, I've done all three of these, by the way, so I know what I'm talking about. And yeah, when any books that I've independently published through my own imprint, I get a much higher percentage for every book that is sold. Okay. I don't have to share any of my money with the agent. Okay. I get to keep all my rights, so I don't have to worry about that. I have full creative control, including the cover. So lots of, cool things. And, your book can be available within a few weeks after you finished it. You don't have to wait a couple of years. So, these, seems like a pretty good, deal. Now let's look at the opposite side. Okay. Very few bookstores will sell independent books. Okay, now there may be some mom and pop shops. If you're a local author, they may be doing it, but big retailers generally won't do it because there's not a lot of. I mean, the viewpoint is, well, where is the creative check? Because if anyone can write a book and just put a bunch of words down on a paper and put a cover on it and send it out, and it may not be that great. Okay, so the chances are the bookstores going to be willing to share book space, with books that may sell anyway. You have to do everything or pay someone else to do it. This includes the cover design, the editing, the text formatting, and again, I've done all this. I pay people to do the cover design, so because that's just not my thing. I have paid editors, and I've done all the text formatting myself. I had to teach myself how to do that for both print and for e-text, and it was a lot of work. It absolutely was a lot of work, and you have to do all the promotion, or no one will know about your book. That usually means creating the social media, site, and frankly, in traditional publishing, they still expect you to do promotion. So, I mean, it's all on you. Okay. And again, there is a stigma in publishing worlds against independent publishing. Oh, you're not good enough to be traditionally published. Well, that's not necessarily as true as it used to be. Okay. Now there's this thing called joint venture. Okay. Hey, look at they're shaking hands. Isn't it like this? It's so nice. Okay. So the approach is that you partner with a publishing company, and each of you share the costs and the rewards. And some people aren't aware of this one. Okay. And again, by the way, I am not trying to persuade you one way or the other. I'm just trying to give you all the information so you're aware. Okay. So the pros of a joint venture publishing is that the publisher is more willing to take a risk on publishing you because you're sharing in the investment in it. You don't have to have an agent to be joint, to do the joint venture. Your book can be available faster than a traditional publisher. I did one joint venture book, and it was a pretty quick turnaround. Okay, and depending on the joint venture publisher that you're working with, is that you can get into bookstores, which is kind of cool. It's a little more tricky, but it is possible. Okay. And sometimes, the publisher will actually can provide the cover artist, an editor, and they'll do the text formatting for you. So that's pretty helpful. So if you don't want to worry about, doing the cover or, and they, actually when I did my joint venture, I had a little bit of creative input on the cover, but they actually had a professional editor that helped me with the book and the text formatting. So that's, sounds pretty good, right? Now let's look at the cons. Okay, you have to pay money up front. So again, that's what the whole point of joint venture is, that you agree to pay, X amount of dollars up front with the understanding that you may not recoup that amount of money. Okay, you're basically paying for their services, as it were. Now, you can make money. Okay, you may or may not have creative control of the cover. Depends on the joint venture publisher that you're working with. And you have to do a significant amount of promotion per your contract. They're going to say, look, if you're going to do this, we need your help in publishing your book and letting people know about it. Okay. And there's no guarantee you'll make back what you spent up front. Okay. However, it is possible to do that. So there is that. Now, again, there is a direct connection between the amount of promotion and the money you're going to make on any book, whatever. So what's best for you? Well, that is an excellent question, isn't it? Okay, so let's just kind of reconsider the following. So based on what we just learned, what are your goals for the book? Okay. How much control do you want? Are you willing? How willing are you to promote it? How thick is your skin? And how long are you willing to wait? And these are questions you should ask yourself when you're considering which way you want to go. But at least you're aware of the different options and what you can do. So hopefully this video has helped you give some insight on, the different approaches you can take, and then that'll help you make a more educated decision and on what you're going to do. All right, there you go. Thanks.